Actor Michael Rappaport has worked under some of the great directors Tony Scott in True Romance, John Singleton in Higher Learning, Woody Allen in Small Time Crooks. He's also appeared in Copland, Deep Blue Sea, Hitch, and dozens more. His television credits include My Name is Earl, The War at Home, and a terrific recurring role on Prison Break. In his new film Special, Rappaport works under first-time writers-directors Hal Haberman and Jeremy Passmore in the story of a troubled man who has an adverse reaction to a psychological drug and comes to believe that he is imbued with superpowers. Critics and audiences have fallen in love with this film, which they categorize as unrelentingly funny and ultimately touching. It opens in New York this weekend. It opens in L.A. on the 28th, and it is currently available at home on demand services there at home on your cable system. And I had a chance to speak with Rappaport, Haberman, and Passmore earlier this week, and here is that conversation. People have really taken this film to their hearts, and I'm wondering, Hal and Jeremy, what the original inspiration was behind Special.
I think, like, seriously, this sounds very strange, but it was, Hal was hanging out, this is Jeremy, by the way, Hal was hanging out over at my house one day, and we were kind of talking about stuff, and we'd both been out of film school like a year, and just, things weren't taking off the way either of us had expected them to, and he just looked at me, he's like, dude, we should make a movie this summer. And I looked at him and I was like, oh my God, we should. And then we just decided right then that we were going to make a movie. And then it was like, we kind of went through our list of ideas, and I'd had this thing that felt like a bit more of a comedy than I would normally do on my own. And Hal just, I got to that idea and he just pointed at me, he's like, that's it. And for half a second I thought, you're totally nuts, because we didn't have any money. We were going to do this on credit cards. And it's like, how do you make a superhero movie with no money? But then it was like, all of a sudden that became the most exciting thing about it. It was like, we're already kind of doing something that's impossible. Let's just make it even more impossible.
And it was perfect, too, because doing it that way makes it so dangerous, and it makes it a movie that couldn't be made as a big-budget movie. And it also speaks to the character as well. I mean, the low-budget danger of it is really has a lot to do with what the character's going through and the world he lives in.
Right. So Hal, when you guys went through your list of ideas, what was it about Special that was so special? Why did you choose this one?
Well, I think two things. One was that it seemed impossible, and it was just this kind of thrilling challenge of there's going to be so many problems that we're going to have to deal with creatively that I don't know how we'll figure out solutions, but it's going to be fun trying. And the other thing was that emotionally it was just an idea that I really related to. I could, as soon as Jeremy told me someone thinks they're a superhero, but really they're not, it just became a character that I could kind of see and feel and was real right away, and it was sort of had a kind of pathos in the same way that I could relate to.
Yeah, 'cause it's just like instantly kind of sad and funny at the same time, because even if you're thinking of it purely in terms of, like, take the show Jackass, you know, and I kind of had just been thinking it would be those kind of stunts, but it's like, Jackass is funny because they know what they're doing, and if it's like some poor guy who really thinks he's out fighting crime, it's sort of funny, but it's really messed up and kind of sad at the same time. Like, emotionally, it's really, I don't know. There's like there's a certain despair in it.
There's a despair and a certain delusional quality to it
that we happen to also find funny.
Yeah, which is funny. If it's happening to someone else, it's funny. No, it's like sad and funny at the same time, which is
a tone we both like, and probably a kind of the world we live in. So,
but it's hard, you know. It's really hard to get that, and so it just sort of seemed like the perfect thing. And like Hal was saying, it was also just this notion that it would be totally impossible to pull off. Like, the challenge was so great that it made it, like, the temptation even stronger. Like, we have to do that one because it's impossible.
Right.
And so it just, I mean, I can't even tell you. It was so much fun. We just sat around for hours being like, okay, we don't have any money. What kind of superpowers can the guy have? And it's like, telepathy, you know, invisible force fields, like making other people invisible. It was all like invisible stuff, or like basically stuff that wouldn't cost any money, you know. And
well, yeah,
I don't know. To me, it's almost like an in-joke. Like, I feel like people who are out there who are, like, indie filmmakers will watch the movie and they'll kind of laugh because they're thinking, I get it, like, that didn't cost any money. You know what I mean?
But at the same time, right when they're sure that nothing surreal or impossible is going to happen, there are a few things that are physically shouldn't be possible and are done one way or another, pulled off with the terrific people we were working with between the stunt guys and the special effects, and it makes it more spectacular, because if you're watching your average superhero movie, you know they're going to do impossible things and they just become mundane almost.
Yeah.
Right.
So we just decided to do the mundane.
But there was actually a point where, we ended up with more, not like we ended up with real money, but we ended up with more money than we thought. And we actually got these special effects guys at Zoic, and they were going through, and there was a part where he's in the invisible force field, and they were volunteering. They were like, hey, I know we never talked about it, but we'd be happy to throw in some, ripples, like a ripple effect, so that you see the force field. And it was so tempting because it's cool, high dollar, kind of value.
Right.
But at the same time, it was like, it doesn't feel like our movie. Like, our movie, on some level, is about what do you do when you have no money. And so there were times like that where we actually pulled back from, I think we could have even gone further as far as production value.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. And Michael, when you read the script, first of all, how did you get your hands on it, and what about it turned you on?
I got my hands on the script from my manager, who had gotten it from the casting director. It was really just, sort of casting 101. He read the script, he liked it. I read it, and met with the guys, and I just really thought it was just, just really, really well written, top to bottom. I thought it was funny, and I thought it was touching, and I just got it. And, after I met Jeremy and Hal, and realized, that they were kind of on the same page with what I thought the movie should be. I jumped on board, and then, like, I don't know, like a month later, we were on the set making the movie, and it was a really, really easy process, and it was it was just good timing for all of us. Everything just clicked and made sense. But it was the script that attracted me the most.
Was there anything about the character that challenged you or scared you in any way?
Yeah, I mean the challenges came from the turns that he was going through throughout the story. He was the way where he starts off at and where he ends, we're so different, and the idea of playing somebody who is sort of going through he's going through a mental breakdown was appealing, and that was frightening because you don't want to overdo it or play any sort of cliche, like crazy person sort of stuff. So that was challenging, but I never really looked at it like I don't think I even really understood that he was going through a mental breakdown until we started, because I was just looking at it like through his perspective, which was he wasn't going through a mental breakdown. He was just everyone else was kind of flipping out. That was his mentality. He's like, what are you talking about? You don't, how could you not see this? Because he was so convinced that everything that he was saying and doing was so true. So, and I think that's the best way to play anything, is you just play it really sort of, through a tunnel vision, and there's an immediacy to it. It's just like, it's just kind of like, it is what it is.
Yeah. What fascinates me, and I've always been interested in this, are filmmaking duos, and I'm wondering what the process is, how you guys co-direct. How does that work on set?
I think it's weird. It was kind of a special case. Oh, no pun intended, but but because we were literally before there was even the very genesis was, we're going to make this movie. There was this determination to make a movie, and then we decided what it was, and it was because we were on that, that was always the goal, and then we pre-produced the heck out of it. Like we shot, we storyboarded everything, and we talked about aesthetic, and we just spent so much time, and there was so much invested that by the time we got on set, we were just so on the same page. Like,
right.
And it's weird because it's like, I feel like there's certain things that I never could have brought to the movie, but once you got there and you were shooting it, like, you knew that's the way it had to be. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like I had my version of it and he had his version of it, and those were sort of fighting. It was more like there was just there was a right way to do it, and Rappaport was such an integral part of that, and it was like,
oh yeah,
it just kind of all went in a straight line, like kind of. I feel like there should have been more pain to it than there was.
Yeah,
you know?
It was surprisingly easy. We bounced ideas back and forth, and it was usually very clear, no matter who they came from, what the better idea was, and we always went with what we agreed was the better idea, which we never really thought about. It's an amazing process, too, to get to co-direct, too, because there'll be a bunch of stuff in the movie that comes out of Jeremy's mind that would never come out of my mind, and then there's things that started to come out of my mind that if I'd been working alone, I would have said, no, that's stupid, I hate it. It's too much like me, and I would have cut it out, whereas it appeals to Jeremy, and suddenly it stays in, and it makes me uncomfortable, but somehow it works.
And also, like, it's easier to see this in retrospect, but the movie is about a guy who he's completely psychotic. And so, in a weird way, like, he's both a superhero and not a superhero, and there's already this, in a weird sense, there's this duality in the movie. And I think that in some strange way, it was kind of a natural way to make this movie, that it was two different people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Michael, you've worked with some of the great directors that I admire intensely. And I'm curious what that dynamic was for you working with both Hal and Jeremy on this.
I mean, at first I was like, I didn't know exactly how it was going to work out, and I was like, oh, who am I going to talk to about what, and what if one of them...
Yeah.
You know, my biggest concern was that one of them was going to tell me to go left and the other one was going to tell me to go right. But they were, I don't know if it was just, the fact that they were just genuinely on the same page or, just how they were in front of me. But, it was cool. I never got any of that. Like, I would talk to both of them and, they would, one of them who had the take on that particular question or that particular moment would chime in and help me and assist me, and we just, everything just kind of fell into place, and I gave them the trust that that you're supposed to give your directors until it's breached, but I just trusted them, and I really loved the script so much, and they had a clear view on what they wanted to do, and then and they were also very trustful of me, and if I wanted to try something or something didn't make sense to me. Like, we just fell into the pocket. Like, there wasn't any bumps in the road. And quite honestly, because of the pace of the shooting, there wasn't any time for it. But, it fell into place. I mean, because, I worked on many different projects. And, once you kind of go, oh, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, or, oh, we're not on the same page. Once that's kind of there, it's hard to fall out of that. And fortunately, we never got into that and never had to dig ourselves out of that hole, because once that kind of stuff starts happening, you get into trouble.
And on this particular project, I think that would have been catastrophic, because you're talking about a situation where people aren't really getting paid, and so it's so easy to start grumbling, but like when Mike Rappaport shows up on set at 6 a.m. and he's in costume and he's just jazzed and so excited, and he's sitting there going, come on, let's go. It's like, it just sort of, I think the rest of the crew sees that and goes, holy shit, this is awesome. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. This is the internet.
But they're just like, oh my God, Mike Rappaport's having a ball. And it sort of just sets the tone for the whole crew.
I'll close on this question. You each can have a shot at it. This movie has been playing for audiences for a little while now, and it's finally going to reach a bigger audience this upcoming week, I'm sure. But what is their reaction to it? What are they responding to, and what do you want people to take away from it? Hal, if you want to start on that.
Well, we had an interview just a little bit earlier, and the interviewer told us, I watched this movie last night with my wife and my father. I really liked it. My wife hated it, and my father loved it. And that's kind of, when we started, that's what I was going for. I was hoping, whether it was a movie people loved or hated, it was a movie that people would care about, because it was something I cared about so much, and that's why I put so much of my life into it. And so, in a lot of ways, I'm really happy about it. I want them to feel it's a surprisingly sincere movie for a movie about complete insanity.
Yeah.
How about you? I just want, I don't even really care what percentage of it is, the audience, but I just want a certain percentage of the people to watch it and just be like, God, I loved that movie. I loved that guy. I loved that movie, and it was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if it's just 1 out of 100, just because to me that's what it is. And it's if somebody, we were at a screening at the Austin Film Festival, and some guy afterwards goes, "That's my favorite movie of all time," and it was just the most awesome thing ever to hear someone say that. And just, I don't know. So I just hope that there's those little handful of rabid fans. It just makes me really happy.
Yeah. How about you, Michael?
I just want people to see the movie, I think that this is the kind of movie that is going to have, a life after its release. I think that it's going to be, kind of be lingering around our lives for a while, and I think that the movie has so much heart and it's so genuine. I think that the reaction will be an emotional reaction, whether you like it or not. I think that, it was made with a lot of passion from the entire group, and a lot of excitement, and it just made it from a very genuine place. And I think that if people are responding, they're going to have a very visceral, very honest response to it. And I hold it close to my heart. It became very personal to me, and I think hopefully that passion and then will come across in the movie, and I think that if as long as it's an emotional reaction, that's the best I could hope for.
Yeah, we need more movies made with a certain passion. I mean, we need more personal, passionate movies, and
all you got to do is just give them no money.
Keep
big time actors out there. Make them start working for no money, and you'll get that passion for them.
Yeah. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck with the film, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks
a lot.